having the two groups working together versus in silos is critically important. So our goal is to make sure that you have one seamless sales and marketing platform.
Thank you, Luke. Excited to have you here. Excited to be talking to the senior living industry with you. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to start off by talking about there's kind of been a major transition in marketing. I'm going to talk about how there's been a shift to inbound marketing. After that, I'm just going to briefly touch on the importance of a customer-focused strategy. And then we're going to jump into some of the fun stuff. We're going to talk about how to increase traffic to your website. We're going to talk about the different ways that you can convert that traffic into tours or into leads. And then I'm going to talk about how you grow your occupancy by taking these leads and turning them into actual sales. After that, I'm going to pass it over to Luke, who's going to jump into the value of sales consistency, touch on the importance of data, talk about how to choose the right sales channel, and then jump into how you can improve your close ratio. And then at the very end, I have a couple extra little sales tools that I'm going to show you that you could go ahead and take away and use today. So here, let's go ahead and get started. So jumping into housekeeping, first of all, as we're going through this, you all have access to a chat window. Ask questions at any point. We'll be collecting the questions throughout the call. We'll respond at the end of the call. Also, there will be a recording of this made available for anybody that's unable to view it today. Feel free to share this with your colleagues. We'll make this accessible on the Inquire Solutions website and also on the GrowthCo website. And most importantly, thank you all for joining. We're very, very excited to have you here. We love talking about both the best practices in sales and marketing, and we love sharing some of the things that we've learned in the process with you. So thank you again for being on the call with us. So now let me jump into the shift to inbound marketing. Over the last 5 to 10 years, there's been a major transition in how sales and marketing work. Largely on the marketing side, we've gone from a world of interruption to a world of attraction, or a world of interruption to a world of inbound needs. And what this means is used to be that you would cold call, you would push a banner in front of people as frequently as you possibly could. You would try to stop them when they're going into a news website. You would try to push banners up in front of them, which still happens occasionally. But in terms of effectiveness for driving actual sales, what works a lot better is using an attract or a magnet kind of methodology, where you're instead of trying to push your content in front of people, you're pulling people to you by developing valuable, useful content on your website, showing thought leadership and pulling them into your site, and then pulling them into the sales funnel from there. So kind of a shift from interrupt to attract. Just want you to think about that, keep that in the back of your mind as we're going through this process. To kind of tee that off and to re-emphasize that, looking at an interesting stat here from thinkwithgoogle.com, which is an excellent resource for industry stats. They had a survey that went out to seniors and boomers asking where they spend most of their time with media. 19 hours, in fact, the highest number on any media was on the internet, and that is over 16 hours compared to 16 hours with TV. This is a combination of both mobile and also desktop, but just interesting to see, even in the senior boomer market, how much time they're spending on the internet. All right, now we're going to jump into the strategy section. I want to just emphasize the importance of always starting with your customer. Every great marketing campaign, every great sales strategy starts with a deep understanding of your customer's needs, desires, and challenges. And to kind of give you a framework to think about how you build a marketing strategy around your customer, I've put on this slide what we call, there's two different segments of this. One is the persona. A persona is kind of an identity that you would build all of your content and messaging around and targeting towards. And then I also have on the right here what's known as the buyer's journey. The buyer's journey is essentially just the sales funnel turned sideways, if you want to think about it in older ways. But it is down at the bottom here, I have an example of how you would look at both the persona and also the buyer's journey. So say adult child, me, for example, a few years ago, my grandma was getting older, but we weren't at a point where we had any need for senior living or assisted living, but I was aware that at some point I was going to have this need, and I was going to have to go out and do some research on it. So this is something that at this point, the content that you would create would be very different than the next stage. A few years after that, I realized my grandma needed assistance now, so I started going on the web and researching different communities. And then lastly, during the decision stage, I'm at a point where I understand what my grandma wants, I understand what we can afford, I know what area it needs to be in, and now I'm looking at very specifically the different communities that I was wanting to compare. So in addition to starting with the customer focused strategy, one of the tools that you can use to make sure that you're getting the right information and that your strategy is effective is surveys. We recommend two different tools when you're using surveys, either fluid surveys or super simple survey. One of the things that we do with all of our customers, and we highly recommend you could do this on your own using those tools, they make it very easy, is to go out and get your Net Promoter Score. And your Net Promoter Score is a score, it's actually a question that many of you have probably answered at some point. It's the question of how likely is it that you would recommend this product or your community to a friend, family member, or colleague. It's graded on a scale of 0 through 10, with 9 and 10 being the promoters and 0 through 6 being the detractors. And the score comes back as a percentage of promoters to detractors. The value of this score, and the reason that we recommend it to clients, the reason that I would suggest you go try one of these tools out or find somebody to help you with it, is that it allows you to understand how likely it is your community is going to spread through word of mouth, which means that you're going to know how effective your referral program will be. If you're over 50 on your Net Promoter Score, my guess is that you're going to be able to, your referral program is going to work very well. In addition to this, with these surveys that go out, we always recommend as a best practice that you include not only the NPS score, but you also include questions, open-ended questions that allow you to, one, segment your customers, but then also understand their challenges, the challenges that led them to your community, and understand them in the way that the language that they use to talk about it. An example of this can simply be, what were the challenges that you faced while trying to decide which senior living community you wanted to live in? Understanding how they talk about it can often help drive your content strategy going forward. Additionally, just to give you another example, again, data from Think with Google, they asked, how strongly do you agree with the following statements to seniors and boomers? The statement that won was, want to stay mentally active. So an example of content that you could create knowing this would be how to stay mentally active in Denver, Colorado. This might be content that's very valuable to seniors who are also potentially looking for senior living communities. Now for some of the fun stuff, how to increase traffic to your website. I'm going to touch on SEO and blogging, briefly on social, and then I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth on some opportunities for you in search engine marketing and also paid marketing. So first of all, why are we talking about blogging? A lot of sites have a blog, but really I just want to emphasize how important it is. And this stat, which is pretty amazing, is that companies that blog generate 126% more leads than companies that do not blog. This is largely due to the fact that by having a blog, by having content on your website, you're more likely to be found on Google because you have more keywords on your website that people are going to be searching for. And just to re-emphasize the importance of digital as a whole, how do I decide which senior living community meets my need? Today's prospects or leads do not contact providers directly until 57% of the decision-making process is complete. I can't tell you how many clients I've worked with who say, well, you know, we receive enough phone calls and everybody knows who we are and we don't need to worry about our website. And the reality of the situation is that people are going to your website and they are comparing you to other companies right out of the gate. So you need to keep that in mind, understand that that's going to happen, and make sure you have the information that you need on your website. Jumping into blog best practices, SEO keyword research, there's two tools that I've listed here, WordTracker and AdWords Planner. Both tools are very effective ways of identifying the search volume for keywords. And what I mean by this is I'm going to tell you a little story about a client. I had a client who said they didn't need to worry about SEO. They didn't need to worry about doing any keyword research because they were #1 on Google. After looking at, I asked them what words they were #1 for. It happened to be their company name. I went out to one of these tools. I used WordTracker, and I found that they were #1 for a keyword that gets searched 5 times a month. So it's very important that you know before you start targeting keywords and before you say we've won on Google, that you understand how frequently people are typing those keywords into Google so that you make sure that you're actually going to get meaningful traffic from the keywords that you're targeting. Additional best practices on blogs. Here's an example from A Place for Mom. I'm sure many of you have heard of them. They have done a decent job here of putting, one, they have useful content. This actually would be content that would be similar to something I would want to see during my awareness stage of the buyer's journey, where they're telling me, here's the different types of care types, which is something that I don't need, you know, I need early on when I'm trying to figure out what the industry looks like. Additionally, and one of the most critical pieces, I see blog after blog after blog that I read where you read the blog and then you leave because there's nothing else to do. You read it and you leave. They've created a fantastic billboard. They've captured your eyeballs, but they've forgotten to put a call to action on the blog. By putting a call to action on the blog, you significantly increase the likelihood that you're going to turn somebody from driving by into an actual lead that you can then work moving down the line. So I highly recommend, and if you see here, the call to action that they were using also fits very well with the with the awareness stage, which is download the guide to senior housing. Jumping into social media, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on social media today. We do work with a lot of clients on this extensively, but one of the recommendations I would have with social media is it goes back to your entire strategy, is make sure you know your target persona and you understand where they spend their time, and that you are targeting them effectively based on that. If you are targeting seniors over the age of 65, Facebook is going to be your go-to. About 46% of them are on Facebook, while only 6% are on Twitter. So just something to think about with your overall digital strategy is that you need to understand where your target persona spends their time and then go after your strategy in that order. One other stat here is that the senior category is the fastest growing segment on social media, with now over 50% of seniors, but it is still relatively small. Jumping into advertising best practices, Google AdWords. Google AdWords is a tool that allows you to select the exact keywords you want to advertise on. You can see the example here with Senior Living Denver. You can see that Brookdale has purchased the #1 spot for that, and now is at the top of the list with paid advertising. This is a way to jump over what would take some time with SEO or organic. You're not going to get 100% of the traffic, and you're going to have to pay for some of the traffic that comes to your website, usually anywhere from 10 cents to $10 per click, which sounds expensive, except for when you think about the value that it can drive to your community by driving more leads. Imagine what you pay in referral fees, and think about how many leads would it take, or how much would you be willing to pay per lead if you were able to not have to pay referral fees to online directories. So just a strategy to consider, something to think about. It can be very effective. A couple best practices: if you are going to do AdWords, make sure that you're not sending the person directly to your home page. Make sure you're sending them to a landing page or to a page that is relevant to those search terms. Home pages are not designed to convert. They are designed to basically showcase all of what you do and get people to the next stage. So make sure that the targeting of the keyword is very specific and sends people to a landing page. I'll talk about what a landing page is here in just a few minutes, but it's very important that you have that lined up. And then additionally, you want to make sure you're optimizing that your campaigns on a weekly basis or at least monthly basis. I've seen many of our clients that we worked with say, "Oh, well, we're doing AdWords. We're in a good spot. We've got it up and running." And then you go in and look, and you realize that they've paid $1,000 on keywords that had absolutely no benefit to them. So it's critical to go into your campaign, see which AdWords are actually driving new leads, and then focus on those, and then eliminate the words that aren't working for you. Additionally, for advertising best practices, geo-targeting is something that AdWords offers. It's a pretty fantastic tool in terms of being able to target specific geographies based on zip codes. It's similar to if you were doing a mailer, a direct mailer to a zip code, because you know that that's the zip code you want to have moved to your community. You can do the same thing, but you can do it online, and you can also tie it to specific keywords. So really beneficial in terms of only targeting keywords that matter and only advertising in areas that matter to you. For example, if you had a senior living community in Houston, Texas, and you might want to be found every single time somebody in Houston types in the word senior living, you might want to show up. Now, if somebody types in senior living in Boston, Massachusetts, you might look at that lead as a little bit less valuable, so you might not want to show up. This would be a way of just distinguishing where your ads are being displayed. Additionally, retargeting is another advertising best practice. Tends to have one of the highest return on investments. I like to call these the ads that follow you. A little bit interesting in terms of how they work, but just for an example, you guys are all sitting on a GoToWebinar right now. Over the last week, I was visiting GoToMeeting multiple times, and you can see that GoToMeeting has retargeting set up, and the ads have followed me all the way to CNN.com. This is a very effective marketing tool because you're only advertising to people who have actually visited your website. So if somebody comes to your website and then goes on, you now have banner ads that will follow them across the internet on thousands of different websites, and you're basically making sure that all of your advertising spend is focused on people who have already shown some interest in you. Now I'm going to talk about a few different strategies that helps you convert some of the increases in traffic into more tours, into more leads. Specifically, we're going to talk about calls to action combined with landing pages, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about A/B testing. So first of all, landing pages. I mentioned this while I was talking about AdWords. Landing pages are pages that are designed to deliver very specific content to a user and also to collect a user's their email address, their name, their title, whatever information is that you need to collect from them to make sure that you have a qualified lead. That is what landing pages are designed for. When you're doing AdWords, an example of doing AdWords with these is to have an ad that has the exact same title as the title of your landing page. That's going to make the ad campaign more effective, and it's also going to be a very effective use of the landing page. These landing pages, though, are one of the most effective ways of turning your website into a lead generation machine. Instead of just having people browse through, read content, you post valuable information on landing pages and then allow people to download that information by leaving their information. Jumping to A/B testing, there's a tool that I would recommend for this. Is called Optimizely. A/B testing is it's a pretty cool feature that you can do where basically you deliver two completely different variations of a website randomly to visitors of your website, and then you track how many people complete the goal that you had for that page. So here's an example of a client of ours where we set up an A/B test, and you can see on the left here where the main messaging, we have the headline, sell more and communicate better. And then we created a test variation of this with sell smarter and faster. We started delivering this randomly to different people visiting the website, and then we tracked which one converted more leads. And you can see that just by simply changing the headline, we're able to increase leads by 64%. So A/B testing can be a very valuable way to make sure that you're converting more leads on your website. Now I'm going to touch briefly on how you can grow your occupancy, or how you can turn those tours into leads. We're going to discuss briefly marketing automation. I'm going to talk a little bit about analytics, and then jump into syncing your CRM. So first of all, marketing automation allows you to create campaigns that start automatically after someone submits a form on your website. There's a few tools that are out there that you can use for this. We recommend HubSpot because of its simplicity, but also the breadth of what it offers. But Acton and Marketo are both very good products as well. Let me show you an example of what a marketing automation sales follow-up would look like. So going back to starting at that landing page, John here, for example, asks for a report on a landing page. He automatically receives an email that says, thanks for downloading our report on healthy senior living, or whatever the report or whatever the download is. But now he's automatically put into what's called a workflow, and a week from now, he's going to receive another email. And hi, John, I thought you might be interested in this checklist for comparing senior living communities. 3 weeks from now, he receives another email that continues to move him down the buyer's journey or down the sales funnel, with the idea that you're going to end up with setting up sales calls or closing sales without having to manually do all of the follow-up. It's a very good way to kind of welcome somebody in, stay top of mind, and then convert them to a sale in the long run. For simplicity, I put 3 emails here. Often these can be 10 to 20 emails long as you're continuing to drive value and keep the conversation open. These can be really, really valuable ways of moving somebody down the buyer's journey. Additionally, measuring your marketing performance across all channels is not only a best practice, but critical to success. If you're not measuring what's working, it's impossible to know where you should spend. I highly suggest that you measure the ROI of all of your marketing campaigns, and that you compare the effectiveness of the marketing channels. There are tools, you can see it here on the right, like HubSpot, that allow you to see where your traffic is coming from. Are you getting traffic from social media? Is the traffic coming specifically, is it coming from LinkedIn, or is it all directed directly from Google search terms and coming in through your blog? In fact, you can even drill down to see which articles are driving, or which blog posts are driving the most traffic to your website, and then you can start to hone in on what content you should provide, and then also make sure that in the long run you're spending more strategically, because you're spending money on what works. So a best practice you can use, there's a few tools for this as well. We love HubSpot. Google Analytics can help with this. There's a little bit more setup involved, but Google Analytics is a free tool that you can use and start tracking some of your sources and channel traffic. So lastly, I just want to emphasize the importance of integrating your marketing efforts with your CRM. You should connect your CRM to your marketing automation platform. This ties back to the last slide a little bit, just in terms of making sure you can see which channel is the most effective and spend intelligently. But even more importantly, it allows you to arm your sales team with better information. With tools like HubSpot or Marketo, you're able to see exactly what pages leads visit. And can you imagine if your sales guy could go into the conversation knowing that the senior he's about to call just spent a half an hour reading 2 of your blog posts on staying mentally active? That information is invaluable in terms of being able to do a better job on with the sales call when they get on the phone with them. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Luke to talk about the value of sales consistency.
All right, great information, Dave. I think all of us can vouch to say that we at least do some of that stuff. I know we at Enquire certainly don't do all of it or do all of it exceptionally well. So I think the goal is, if we can all do it exceptionally well, we'll win the online battle. I'm going to focus on some of the call-in best practices. I think that one of the things that your people out in the field really need to focus on is just telephone sales. It's a pretty unique skill set, and it does take some training, but once you're able to master it, you are really going to find that it's going to create some great results. So a few of the things that we do, that we focus on, communities that we see do it well, and also we practice here in our call center, is ask open-ended questions. We're always trained, and we always suggest and encourage our customers who have salespeople out in the field to never ask a yes or no question. They need to be asking questions that are going to really forge a true, genuine relationship with that prospect, and be able to let them know that you actually care about what their wants and needs are. Listen more than you talk. This seems so simple, and it goes back to the old adage that, you know, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, so let's make sure that we listen more than we talk. I think that's really important, just to demonstrate that we care about what's going on in their life. We care about what's driving them to be considering making such a monumental move in their life into a senior living community. Focus on value creation. Again, I think that, you know, reading down a laundry list of amenities doesn't create any value. Breaking down the barriers by asking the open-ended questions and really extracting the information to learn what are the hot buttons of this particular prospect, what are they looking for as they make this next transition in life. I think once we're able to understand what's important to them, that's when we can start to create value based on what the company, what your company or what your community has to offer. Taking control of the conversation. A lot of this just plays into telephone sales and talking about pricing. I know it's something that probably comes up frequently on your side, as it does on ours, but as you know, most prospects who are calling in, the first question that comes out of their mouths usually is, how much does it cost? So I think that being able to defer that question towards the latter part of the dialogue, or even being able to avoid talking about pricing altogether and just focus on creating value that your community has to offer, is really how you establish control, create trust, and forge that relationship that you're trying to. And the last is just tell the prospect that you'll follow up. One mistake that we see happen all the time is the salespeople out in the field say, when may I follow up with you next? And that's not the right way to frame that particular question. The way it should be handled is you should say, may I follow up with you tomorrow or next week, whatever the appropriate time frame might be, and give them a specific day and a specific time. That's, again, how you create trust, as long as your people are actually doing the follow-up on that particular day and time. Moving on to some of the call-in challenges, again, just with telephone sales. Turnover. Some of you may or may not experience a high rate of turnover and attrition at your community. I know a lot of our clients tend to experience some of that. And when there's a lot of turnover, obviously training becomes a challenge as well. How do you have that consistent message and the consistent training and data entry if you have such a high rate of turnover? Data integrity. Again, this goes into training as well. How are your people trained to make sure that they're documenting every touch point in the CRM or the lead management tool that you're using? Without having accurate and complete data being documented in your system, as decision makers, you're not able to determine where are my resources being best spent, where should I allocate my resources going forward to get the greatest return on investment. And last is recruiting. There are certain characteristics that people have that really bode well in this industry. How do you find that balance for your salespeople to say, who are the people out there that have the care and compassion, but also have the balance by having the fire in their stomach to really be good salespeople to help work with your prospects and to get them to ultimately move into your community? We solve some of these challenges with a number of things. I think one that's important and sounds simple, but it isn't done near as often as it should, is just sharing the internal metrics with your employees. What is their report card? How are they being graded in the company's eyes? How can they make sure that their quarterly or semi-annual or annual review is going to be great? They need to know the metrics at which they're being graded on. Hiring a sales coach. We have a number of them that we've worked with, and I think that whether it's an internal sales coach that you create as your advocate to go out in the field to help with sales, or an outsourced sales coach that you contract to help you with, I think that it's important, particularly in terms of consistency. Create workflows. Again, I think that we all know that salespeople really don't love the part of their job where they sit behind a computer all day and focus on data entry. So creating workflows really just helps automate the process. And I say that with the caveat that automating the process doesn't mean making it feel like a robot's doing the work. It means automating the process as much as you can, but balancing that to make sure that every touch point still feels unique and specific and customized and personalized to that particular lead. Utilizing a CRM to improve your data integrity. Again, I think this goes down a lot into training. How are you making sure that the people in the field are doing accurate and complete data entry to make sure that when you're doing analysis and you're looking at your marketing initiatives and your marketing campaigns, which ones really do drive the greatest return on investment? You don't know, you can't measure what you can't market, so it has to be documented in the CRM to be able to know that. Standardize your telephone sales methodology. We all know, particularly with companies that have a portfolio of multiple communities, salespeople utilize and employ different techniques and different tactics because that's how they were trained to be able to do sales. So being able to standardize that and create a standard message out in the marketplace based on your company and your brand and your community is very important. Some things that some of our customers have decided to do is select a call center partner. Again, it goes down to what you're trying to achieve, but if you want to make sure that you have consistent messaging and consistent data entry, a call center partner can be a great solution to that. Identify and recruit top talent, and just one example is using a SWOT analysis. Again, there are certain characteristics and traits that salespeople have, and being able to identify which traits and characteristics bode well to make a good salesperson in this industry, this high-touch senior living industry, is critically important. Moving on to improving your close ratio. If you don't know what's working, how do you know where to invest your resources? And I've got just one quick stat down here. Lost leads can cost a senior living community up to $53,000 a month. And that actually came from a quote out of Senior Housing Forum, which I believe came out today. Lead capture best practices. I think that capturing your lead score. Almost all of our customers have a different lead scoring methodology or metric that they use. So regardless of how your company does it, I think you need to be capturing that lead score, because that's how you're able to determine where are they at in the buyer's journey, and what type of content and what type of touch points do we need to be employing to make sure we're moving them through the funnel. Setting up unique forms, as Dave had touched on, unique phone numbers and links. Again, this is how you determine where are your leads coming from. Again, it's so easy for somebody to drive by your community and to see a sign, but when they call in and you ask them, how did you hear about us? They say, well, I Googled you. Well, if they called the phone number they saw on your sign, that's a great way to determine they actually learned about us by driving past our signage. Answering every call within 3 rings. It sounds so simple, but we actually measure this success in our call center, and if the call is not answered within 3 rings, frequently that prospect hangs up the phone and picks up and dials the next community on their list, which oftentimes is just the community that you compete with that's right up the street. So making sure you answer that call within 3 rings is very important. And getting permission to ask the questions. Again, this is just a great tactic to break down the barrier, to let them know that you're mindful of their scenario, whether it's a stressful situation with a needs-based move or a less stressful situation with a wants-based move. Just asking permission to ask the questions is very important. This plays into what I touched on earlier with just personalizing every experience and every touch point. The telephone. One thing that we focus very, very hard on here in our call center and our clients do out in the field is focusing on forging a relational sales approach versus a transactional sales approach. It's not about volume, it's about the relationship, and I think most of us can agree with that. Digitally, automation over manual. Again, the more of the process that we can automate versus manual data entry, the better. And I think I say that with the caveat again that needs to be balanced with making everything personalized to that lead, but automating it to be able to free up your sales director's time is important. Walk-ins. A lot of us probably practice this already, but just focusing on compassion over speed. If somebody walks in off the street, it shouldn't matter if your sales counselor has an appointment coming up in 30 minutes. They should carve out the appropriate amount of time to let that prospect know that they matter. And there are a series of things you can do to make sure that you're demonstrating the compassion, but focusing on compassion over speed is very important. And your follow-up. I know a lot of us probably do mass emails or broadcast emails to make sure that we're doing the follow-up, and that's okay, but that needs to be balanced again with making sure that everything is personalized. That way people, your prospects, don't feel like they're just another number. They feel like they matter. Becoming a data-driven company. We see this major transition happening on our side as we measure the analytics from our customers across the United States and Canada. Using the data to make better decisions. So tracking your appointment ratios by source. Where are your appointments and your tours coming from? Are they coming from signage? Are they coming from digital marketing techniques? Are they coming from your referral partners out in the market? Being able to track those ratios is very important. Consider your geography. I think this goes into just knowing your audience. Are your communities in a more rural area versus an urban area? And being able to understand the different techniques and tactics it takes to really reach your audience is important. Compare your community to the industry. Again, we actually aggregated and we took the lead on this here at Enquire Solutions. We have a number of customers that use our CRM and our call center, and we have a lot of customers that also just use our CRM or our call center. So we took it upon ourselves to aggregate all of our information and to post a quarterly benchmarking report. So whether you're a customer of Enquire Solutions or not, you can always see how your community stacks up to the other players that are out in the marketplace. And monitoring your trends and just staying in front of them. as you look at your marketing efforts and start to see positive trends or negative trends, you can get in front of it and you can start to pivot and make decisions based on the data you're getting from those trends. Choosing the right sales channel. This is very important too, just when trying to determine where should your resources be focused. I'm just going to spend a couple of moments on these next couple of slides, but I think that there is something very important. And again, I think the one takeaway from this is that there's not a silver bullet. Again, it goes back to know your audience, know your geography, know your demographic, but signage. Signage is very important, and I believe it's something that's often overlooked. We have customers that have revamped some of their marketing budget just to say, we don't even have any signage. We probably should. So they went out and actually did studies based on how big should our sign be, what color should they be, what type of font should we have to make sure that we're attracting the attention of our prospective residents out in the marketplace driving by. I'm sure most of us are aware that referral sources. These are great sources to get appointments and to get traffic in our doors. And I say that in contrast to what you would see down here with direct mail, 3% appointment ratio. That's not to say that direct mail still doesn't generate results, but the way that the market and the world is changing today, the direct mail tactics are having less and less of an impact on your audience. And in comparison to what's generating your tours, this slide focuses on what's generating your move-ins. And I think a lot of us probably know this, but your professional referral sources out in the market, those are your top resources to get move-ins. These are the people that know your community intimately and can make strong recommendations to your prospects of who they're going to be handing off to you. And I say that in contrast to here on the bottom left, the referral agencies out there. I think the move-in ratio of those leads you get from them is actually very low. I think that some do it better than others, but across the board, when you aggregate the data, when you look at your move-in ratio, approximately 3% of your move-ins are coming from referral agencies and online directories. So I'm going to turn it over here and pass it back over to Dave just to give you a couple of great takeaways from today's webinar.
Thanks, Luke, and thank you so much for that great information. Also love seeing some of the data that is also available for free in the free Enquire Solutions quarterly benchmarking report. We'll be sending out a link to that after this if you haven't already downloaded it. Great data to take and kind of look at how your senior living community compares. I'm going to finish off. I just have a couple of new sales tools that I think are useful, cool, kind of the next thing, and also most importantly, very, very effective. First of all, textus.biz. I know one of the main problems with any sales lead follow-up, any prospecting, is typically the ability to get a hold of somebody, the ability to get a response. Text messaging right now currently has the highest response rate of any form of communication. It actually has a higher response rate than a cold call or an email with a 35% response rate. And textus.biz is a tool that's built for sales teams and also for customer service that allows you to get more responses faster. It's simply a plugin on your website or on your computer that you use just like you would use an instant messenger. And it also works directly from your landline. And then most importantly, with everything that we've talked about today, it integrates with your CRM, so it is a full sales tool that you can use. You can actually try it out for free. It's not that expensive even when you do use it. We use it on our team, and I know people love it. So one of those things I wanted to share with you. And then the last sales tool, this one is 100% free, and I recommend you download it the second we get off the call, is Sidekick. It's produced by HubSpot. It allows you to see when emails are open and to view when links in the emails that you sent are clicked. And the importance of this is timing is everything with sales, and knowing when your customer is engaged in your product or your brand allows you to follow up more effectively and in a more timely manner. I've personally had experiences where somebody tells me that they're not interested in working with us or that they don't have time for it right now, and then 2 weeks later I noticed that they've opened my email 4 times in one day and clicked on 2 links and visited half of my website, and I decide that it's time to give them a call, and lo and behold, it typically turns out that they're ready to have a conversation at that point. So really effective tool to use for timing, and also it's free, so might as well try it out. So with that, I'm going to open it up to questions. Really appreciate, just want to reemphasize, I really appreciate everybody getting on the call today. If you have any questions at all, feel free to, we've had a few that have come through that we can go ahead and start with. But I want to, let's go ahead and start here with Mark asked, what trends have you seen with managing incoming calls for assisted living? And Luke, that might be good for you.
I'll jump in and take that one. I think that in terms of trends that we're seeing with managing incoming calls for assisted living, and some of this may not come to a surprise to any of you, but the difference between an incoming call for assisted living or memory care tends to be drastically different than, say, an incoming call for independent living. There's usually urgency, potentially a high-stress caller. It's a needs-based call or move-in versus a wants-based call or move-in. So I think, again, it plays into being able to answer that call within the first 3 rings, having a qualified salesperson take that call who can take control of the conversation, establish a relationship with the caller, and really start to nurture their relationship, even if it is an urgent move-in need, is truly the trend that we see.
Thank you, Luke. It looks like the next question that we're going to go over is from Jim, and he is asking, how long does it take to get an SEO blog campaign to work? Well, Jim, that's a great question as well. Really, I mean, there's no definitive answer to that. I can tell you that it depends on how aggressive you are with your content. Sometimes there's 2 factors. 1, how aggressive you are with your content, and 2, how much search volume and how competitive the keywords are that you're going after. We've seen clients that have won within a month or month and a half. I've also had clients where it takes a full 6 months to a year before they start to win. But really, it depends on the volume of search terms and then content. Some clients go with 3 blogs a month. Others go up to 12 blogs a month. If you're looking to really win fast, I recommend that you and your team start developing a large amount of content with very targeted keywords, and that you've done the keyword research as well. So now to the next question. It looks like we have one from Trisha, and she is asking, how does a call center work?
I'll take that one. We have an extremely customizable solution here at Enquire Solutions, and there are other companies that are out there that do it. I think one of the biggest questions that I get asked is, can we keep our same phone numbers? And the answer is yes. All of your phone numbers stay the same. In terms of how it works, we actually have a few different call center products, so it's really a question to you as to what you're trying to achieve, Tricia. But the reality is that we have our most robust solution, which is truly an outsourced sales team, somebody that can take the initial call and nurture the lead all the way up until they're ready to come in and tour your property, to our least robust solution, which is where nothing really changes in terms of your current sales process, except for when the call rings 3 times at your property and nobody answers that call, it rolls over to our call center, and we call that our call backup service. So those are really the 2 extremes of our call center products.
It looks like we have one last question here. What results can we expect from an inbound marketing strategy from Jared? So Jared, the results, again, don't mean to defer on all of these, but it does vary quite a bit by the level, by how much content you're producing. But there is a study by MIT that actually looked at HubSpot partners after 6 months and compared the leads on their website from a starting point to where they were 6 months later, showed that leads typically increase by about 2.5x. So if you're getting 10 now, you could be getting 25 a month 6 months into an inbound strategy. Again, varies quite a bit by how effective your content is and also how much content you're producing, but it just gives you a little idea there. So I think that's it for questions. So just want to say thank you again to everybody for joining us today. Really appreciate your time. Hope that this information was valuable for you. and we will be following up with a couple of the resources, and also this recording will be live for any of your colleagues that you think could get learn from it. But thank you again for your time today.